Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mysterious Mr. Ryan and today I present another Sims 4 house building video. Today's build is called the Knights Citadel. The Knights Citadel is a castle style build I've been working on for about 3 or 4 weeks now. It's taken me a little bit of time to get right, but finally I'm happy with it, so I hope you like it. Okay, so to build this yourself, you need to start off by building the gatehouse in the middle. You start off with the gatehouse which leads onto the towers in the 4 corners, and to actually build the walls, I opt to use this cranulated style wall which acts as a zigzag. I think overall this looks the best, and after a bit of trial and error it took me a bit of time to get right, but even with a flat wall there was nothing I could do that made it look like this. So it is time consuming, so bear that in mind if you do want to build this yourself, but overall I think the time is worthwhile and time well spent. Okay, so just while I'm going around building the walls, let's talk a little bit about this lot size. So this is the 50 by 50 lot, so it's the largest lot in the game. Now there's only 2 of these in the game, so one of which is a community lot, the other is a house. I opted to destroy the house, but bear in mind that community lot is also an option if you wanted to put it there as well. Now, this lot is capable of holding 6 people. You've got a lord and lady on the top floor with a master bedroom and ensuite bathroom, and on the lower floor you've got the servants' quarters which will have 4 beds and 2 bathrooms. Again, all will become clear when I actually build the keep a little bit later and you can actually see all of this. Okay, so now it's time to move on to the second floor. So for the second floor I raised the gatehouse and the tower height. These all go to the 3 high wall. The actual wall itself I put down, for the cranulation I use a placeholder fence, as you can see me placing now. I then changed this a bit later on to a stone style fence. In reflection this is actually a bit too tall for a sim. It actually means the sims can barely look over it, but I think it gives the castle a bit of a daunting feel. But again, if you wanted to change this in your own version there's no reason why you couldn't. So as I go around here you can see me placing down that placeholder fence. This is a technique I learned a little while back. It just helps for building for me. It allows me to visualise what I'm doing a bit better. Again, this is just the way I build, so if you wanted to build straight away with a fence, by all means please go ahead, but through this build you'll see me do this quite a lot. It just helps me visualise and see what I'm doing just that little bit easier. So as I finish off now the last part of the placeholder fence, I spent a lot of time deliberating over what type of fence you actually use for the castle walls themselves. In the end I opted for the closest thing I could find to cranulated wall, which is this stone style fence. It took a little bit of time of playing with the colour scheme to actually get it right, but in the end this was the best I could find. The only problem I found with it though is the height of it. It is actually quite tall, deceptively tall even. A sim itself standing next to it means they can only just about appear over the top, so just bear that in mind. I opt to use a single wallpaper for the gatehouse and the turrets and a different one for the walls. This gave a certain element of separation between them and also meant that everything looked quite nice. With the door itself on the front I did use the enlargement tool. The problem with the enlargement tool is it does mean the door itself still only functions on the same 2 area that it always did, but it does mean it expands quite a bit and makes the door look quite daunting, which is something I quite liked the appeal of. As we move around the top of the gatehouse and the turrets, I use the same style fence for the cranulation as I do up here, again to give a uniform effect. The only thing is with this is there is no way to get up to the towers. Unfortunately, given the size of them, the stairs on the top, they just wouldn't fit in there. I tried a few combinations but I just couldn't get it to work. So I insert some arches that go all the way around the walls, which means that if you were to take the stairs that I put into the gatehouse a little bit later, you could actually do an entire lap of the castle. I place down at the front and we move to the floors. I place down a wooden floor there, and I also place down some stone floors inside all of the walls and the gatehouse. The wooden floor outside will make a bit more sense when I put the moat around it a little bit later. With these windows, these are the closest windows I could find to arrow slit, so overall I'm quite pleased with how they look. They give quite an amount of good light in there. The only problem with them is they're not arrow slit, so it does mean that it doesn't look as good as it could do, but they serve a good purpose. As we move around I place them on the gatehouse and the turret all the way around. The actual keep has a slightly different style window I use, so bear that in mind that this isn't the same window used throughout. So just as I finish off placing the last parts of the windows now, it's now time to actually start working on the inside keep itself. So the first thing I need to do is just spin around the camera and just start off. So you build the turrets on the edge of the keep. Again, this gives a nice effect. Now this little sidewall here will make a bit more sense later, but this is more of a sort of a common room or a garden shed, so to speak, for the servants. So this is the servants' quarters down here. So we start off by building this shape and then move up a floor. So had a few problems with the Sims Auto room, which meant I had to do a bit of fiddling before this actually worked right for me. Unfortunately, in the end I had to do a lot of playing with some stairs before this worked properly. The Sims 4 Auto room meant that I couldn't actually build ceilings and floors very easily. So I opt for a 3-level keep with the same cranulation for the top of the keep, which again you'll see through shortly. And again it's always 3 high, so here's the keep wall I was talking about. So as we move around here, just placing all of that down. uses the same style of dado rail like everything else, and now we come to the stair placement. Now this in the end took a lot more time to actually get right than I care to admit. The reason is because of the Sims 4 auto room meant I had a great problem actually placing the stairs because I couldn't place the floors down, because every time I tried to place the ceiling it actually replaced the entire area. In the end I had to opt for one of these pre-built rooms before I could actually do this right. So I opt for a pre-built room, then I have to opt to actually delete the walls. Now this actually meant I could then place down the stairs properly. I then carry on building the fences round, and we actually take a step back to now work on the roof. Now the roof is very simple, it's a near flat roof, but again it's a subtle effect, but overall it makes it look quite good in my opinion. Again, opt for exactly the same style on this side part here, again gives the overall castle a nice effect. So as we move around, the stairs themselves opt for a stone brick stairs with handrail, and I try and match the stairs pretty well to the castle walls. This is something a bit more refined stone than the actual outside walls, again to make the keep look a bit more permanent and a bit more exciting. And now it's time to start working on the moat itself. Now the moat itself is something I spent quite a bit of time working on for a couple of reasons. One, there was a bug in The Sims 4 which I was fighting, and the other problem is the cranulation. Now as good as the cranulation looks, it actually makes the whole placing of a moat really time consuming because there is no quick way of doing it. So if you want to build it yourself, just bear that in mind, that the moat will take you a little bit of time to do. Now the bug in The Sims 4 you can see here, this is this crazy blue triangle that keeps appearing to annoy me. It's to do with when you place water near the edge of a map, it seems to keep coming back. Now in the end I did manage to get rid of it in the final build, but bear that in mind that that may come back to bite you constantly. Unfortunately there's no real way of getting rid of it, it's a bug in the Sims code and there's nothing you can do about it, I'm afraid. So if you do get it, apart from keep playing with it until it disappears like I've tried to here, there's no other way of doing it, I'm afraid. So as we go around here you can see me placing all the water in the actual cranulation itself. Now it is as time consuming as it looks, you have to place it square by square. There is no faster way of doing it, I'm afraid. The draw tool just doesn't quite cut it, so just bear that in mind if you want to build this yourself. You may have to spend a little bit of time working on that. So for the colouring I opted for a green style floor, walls and border. This gives it the effect that the moat has actually been dug in a little bit more, so overall I think it looks quite good. So now it's time to work on the inside of the castle. So working on the inside of the castle, you can see me place down my standard placeholder fence. Now this is the only easy way for me to actually do this because I actually opt for a hedge maze effect. So the hedge itself, I start off by placing down the fence as a placeholder, just getting the shape and the feel. Once I'm happy with it, I then actually start to replace it. So first things first, just building all the areas that I need. So 3 main areas through this and a pathway to the entrance. So here's the third and final area, just making sure this is the right size, just wasn't entirely happy with it, so just made it slightly bigger. So now to replace this actually with the hedge I want to use, so I opt for a blue flowered hedge just to give a nice effect inside the castle itself, so just going around replacing all the walls with that. And then it's time to actually start placing down the hedge archways. Now I like the archways, but they are actually counted as gates, which means you actually have to place them on a fence for it to work, so you have to seal off all your rooms to place it down. And then it's time to start working on the floors. So I opted for the stone style floor throughout, opt to use the triangle function in The Sims 4 as well, just to mean that I can actually place nice corners and areas on this, so just going around placing all of that now. Unfortunately the flood fill effect doesn't work in these fenced areas because they're not a set room, because they're quite open. Unfortunately it doesn't work, which means you have to place it all individually. So just as we move around, take a step back from the castle and then actually start by opening up this area and placing down a nice tree in the middle. This made the opening just look a little bit nicer, especially with the hedge maze. Now here's a place for the farm. Now the farm consists of using rose bushes and also these yellow bushes as well. So again, gives a nice effect of a little planted area, but again just place down a little bit of dirt and then just do a bit of texturing just around this edge just to make it look nice. Nothing too much, just something subtle, but again it's subtle enough that I think it makes it look quite good, especially when you go around the hedge. I don't do it around the whole of the castle, just around certain parts of it, but again it's designed just to give a subtle effect. Just going around doing a little bit of texturing throughout, and then as we just move in here, we're just going to move around, take a quick look at this and start on the next part. So here's a chessboard effect I had in mind, which you'll see me populate a little bit later with pieces, and this is one of my favourite parts, but again I won't spoil the surprise on that part. So as we move around then, it's time to actually start working on the castle itself. So we start off by placing down the door. I just opt for a normal sized door this time, I don't enlarge it or anything, and start placing down the windows. Now the windows go in set locations, and there is a reason why I've missed the ones on the back. This is to account for some stairs which I'll place in shortly. I then clone the windows that I've used on the outside of the turrets, again just to give the turrets a similar effect and to allow the most light in possible. Now remember, this is the castle of the Knights Citadel, so bear that in mind of why I place some items in a little bit later in each of these corners, again for overall effect. So as we move around then, just finish up with the windows, so now it's time to actually start working on the little bit of a shed that I have going on at the side. This is just a subtle area for the servants to actually work in, and there's a few bits of creativity that they can actually do inside. So here I place the stairs in the gatehouse which allow you to walk around. The gatehouse itself is actually really empty. I don't do anything with this space. You could do if you wanted to, but I opt against it. This is just my personal opinion, however. So we place down some stair handrails and place back the arches I accidentally destroyed, and we place down the stairs inside the castle itself. Now you can see why those windows have gone missing. It's because of the fact that if I place them, the stairs got in the way. So as we work on the servants' quarters here, the first thing I do is seal off some areas and place down some nice arches to give it an open feel. I place down a single window. Unfortunately there's not much light down here, and some huge oak doors. For the walls I opt for this classic castle style wall, and I opt for a broken clay effect for the actual servants' quarters. Again, this gave everything quite an authentic theme. As we move down here, you can see that the actual lights I use are pretty basic hanging lights, nothing exciting. For the servants' quarters I opt for a nice wooden floor, but I actually opt to change it to a darker one in the meeting room. Now this is sort of where you have, there's a workbench, I place down a hedge trimmer, easel, punch bag to relieve some stress, and also place down a games table. For the bedrooms, they're very simple, they mirror one another, so it's 4 simple beds, 4 simple cabinets and some clocks and a bit of art as well, just to give them something nice to look at. The actual bathrooms are actually quite nice. There's 2 toilets in each one, a couple of sinks, and there's also a shower in each one as well, which allows them their own little space to get ready, but at the same point means that it's nothing too fancy either. It's very compact down there, so they haven't got a huge amount of space to deal with. I place down some nice runners and then start to move on to the kitchen. Now the first thing I do in the kitchen is place down the table and chairs for some place for them to actually sit and eat themselves, and then we start off by working on the cabinets. So I opt for these tall cabinets on each of the edges along with some nice work surfaces. I then delete a couple to make space for the oven and the fridge. We also place down a sink and then do the overhead cabinets, and we break tradition just briefly to put down a fire alarm just to make sure they don't set fire to the house. There's also an enlarged barrel bin that I use, and then we move on to the next floor. Now this is the main entrance hall. Now this is something I'm quite pleased with. So I opt for a dark red deep wood floor. I opt for a blue walls, again just to add a bit of difference in colour. For the actual stairs I opt to use the handrails I use in the gatehouse throughout. We then place down a nice fireplace on both levels, again to keep in tune, and we place down a nice little rug, nice couple of chairs and a globe, which gives you a nice sitting area. Now this is where the knights come in. Now the knights go in each of the 4 corners, again enlarged by 1 scale just to give them a nice effect, and I place down a seal above the main table here, which is for the dining area. Now the dining area consists of 2 very nice chairs which are for the lord and lady, and as we move around here we actually place down the rest of the chairs that you need. So you can have all your guests around and have a bit of a family party, and there's a nice piano for your servants to sit at and play for you along with the violin. And we also have a nice little chessboard, nothing too exciting, just a nice little chessboard out the way. So as we move up then, we start work on the master bedroom. So the master bedroom consists of a bathroom and bedroom linked together. There's no way directly into the bathroom unless you go through the bedroom, so it kind of limits the servants from going in here. Now to actually do this I create a nice border with the floor. Now this is all actually spent a little bit of time. I placed down some temporary lights. I've spent a little bit of time actually getting this right, so this all actually curves very nicely and creates a single pattern. It basically means that everything actually works nicely with these planks. I then replace the centre to give a carpet effect, which allows me to place down a carpet without having to use the ones in the game, because I couldn't find any I actually liked. We place down a large triple door and then just a nice double door leading into the bathroom and some nice chandelier lighting. We start work on the toilet, so we place down some traditional toilets, or as close as I could find stuff that looked like it, some nice sinks and a couple of baths. I place down a nice towel rail for each of the sinks and for the bath. I place down some large full length mirrors and a nice piece of artwork to keep you going. For the bedroom I opt for a gigantic knight to guard over the bed. The bed itself I opt for a nice red bed with some candles behind. A nice chest of cabinets and a nice little makeup area, nothing too exciting, but a place that you could have a few of your dressers and stuff like that. I placed down another dresser with some flowers on top, some curtains to basically seal up the area. I opt for some smaller curtains for the back windows as well, a nice little mirror and a screen. Also opt for a little flower in the corner as well. We move on now to place down a couple of mats. Now this is a nice little upstairs sitting area. Again, this is just for the lord and lady, just have a bit of a sit down and a chat. Nothing exciting, just a nice little place to sit. So I put a grandfather clock in the main bedroom, a couple of places for them to sit and read, a couple of knights again, and a nice little easel for them to do a bit of art. And as we move on, we're going to start work on the outside now. Okay, so as we step outside then, the first thing we can do is place down a couple of benches along with some fountains in the middle. We place down a couple of elephants and also a couple of llamas, which make the overall place look a lot nicer to sit. And then when we place down a lamppost, this gives a nice place to sit at night. And then we move on to my favourite part, which has to be the chessboard. Now without a doubt I have certainly left my favourite part till last, which is the chessboard. This is something I had a lot of fun working on and can't believe I can't have one myself. If I had the money, this is guaranteed the first thing I would put in my house is a gigantic chessboard. Unfortunately it's not functional unless you use the build mode tool, but unfortunately that means your Sims can't play it. But even so, I still think it's such a lovely feature to have in the garden. And that pretty much wraps up our video for today. So I'm just going to leave you with these gallery shots here, so if you like what you've seen here and want to have a bit of a play with this yourself, you can download it via the Mysterious Mr. Ryan gallery page on The Sims 4. If you want to stay up to date with me, you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Lurie, links in the description down below. If you really like what you see here and want to get a little message every time I upload a video, please hit the subscribe and like button down below, it really means a lot to me if you do. But for now, my name's Mysterious Mr. Ryan, this has been the Knights Citadel, and I'm out. I'll see you later, take care.